What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. This is a series where we check out what's on the PB coming in 6.15 and look at who is going to be stronger now after the changes. This is kind of a special edition as well, with the really big changes coming to towers and how minions work, which is going to shift a lot of things, plus a few buffs and nerfs. So we'll quickly go over the game changes like a TLDR way to sum them up, and then more what is actually going to mean and what champions you guys can focus on to win a bit more. There are quite a few new changes to towers, but the big stuff is towers now give a first blood gold just like kills do. It's going to be 275 extra local gold and 25 global gold, so 400 in total, and the fortification buff, which makes towers hard to kill early, is going to be down to 5 minutes from 7. The bigger thing though is bot lane tower now doesn't have fortification at all anymore. It's going to start taking normal damage from the start of the game. There are some cannon minion stuff as well, but first I hope you AD mains are actually ready to be bent over by 4-man ganks every game after this, because that is going to be what happens. Bot lane is such a juicy target now, right? You have 2 targets to kill and it's going to be an easier tower. It's not just this either, but we're going to see more aggressive lanes probably. Whoever can push and control the lane is going to get a massive lead now. The thing is, you're going to make the enemy AD miss CS anyway. You get some free poke damage while they're under tower, but you get full tower damage from minions and from you right at the start. When it dies, you actually get the normal gold from an outer tower and this first blood gold, so I think it's going to turn into a push over and over, get it low, the support walks back and the AD finishes it off to get all of the local gold. So that is actually going to be 125 global gold to everyone on the team, which is great, but it's going to be 575 local gold for the AD carry. By the way, you actually do get both of those, so it's 700 bonus gold just for taking one outer tower. That is ridiculous. A lot of hard push and lane control AD carries are going to come back and be super strong this patch, but Caitlyn probably gets the most from it. You have high range, you have a good push anyway, and the traps to kind of zone people to get even more damage, and I expect her to just cheese so many wins by getting a gold lead this way without really doing anything. Jhin will also be a bit better. He's already super good, but he's going to be stronger, a lane bully, good damage, and he pushes like a madman if you give him a chance. Plus his 4th crit shot seriously hurts towers now as well. The thing is, to lose the first tower of the game in your lane, you normally have to die or get bullied away, right? Whichever it's going to be, you're going to be behind already, and now this just gives them an even bigger advantage over you. So the second change is to cannon minions. So basically they're now spawning alternate lanes, bot lane, then mid lane, then top, rather than being together. At 20 minutes, this is going to change to be a mid cannon and then a bot and top together afterwards, and finally at 35 minutes, every single wave is going to have a cannon minion. This doesn't make any single champion stronger, but it does mean pushing in general might become a bit easier and way more effective now. It used to be you'd have to wait for a cannon minion to really get damage onto the tower, it's going to tank more tower shots, it does a bit more damage, but now later that's not going to be an issue at all. Champions that want to just sit outside of a tower will do that more now, especially later, so Lux and Xerath are good examples who will actually just be naturally better this patch. Again, Caitlyn, Tristana even as well for that tower damage. Champions that just want to group and push are going to do a lot more. The Banner of Command as an item as well will probably become way more effective now, if only by a little bit. It's not really the changes directly, you don't put it in that wave and well, you can put it in the wave and push, I guess, but if we move to a push style game in general, it's going to be better for side lane control and pressure. The overall theme with this stuff though is the game is going to snowball a lot more now, because there's actually extra gold in the game early. We literally just got past the early game means everything phase of this season, and now we're probably back to it. Early leads are going to mean a little bit more now. If someone gets ahead early, that'll be harder to come back against, and bot lane is going to become a real party lane. Everybody is just going to collapse on bot lane and try and get that tower. So this means we're really looking at champions who can win lane and get some tower damage ideally. Both of them would be perfect. Malzahar would have been the best champion for this. Maybe he's still going to be it might actually cover up his nerf this patch. For the top lane, Temu will actually be pretty good this patch. I know you might think that I'm joking, but no, I actually haven't drunk anything. Temu can just AFK shove, and that might be even harder to deal with now. Kennen and Quinn as well are really good examples of champions that can push, and Riven, Renekton, Darius are also up there for lane bully types who can get a lead, which is going to mean a bit more now. For the mid lane, it'll be stuff like Annie and Ahri, for example. These have good pressure in lane, they can actually kill you, I guess, and they can also push well. But even Twisted Fate, kind of the opposite, but you can constantly ult bot lane now and get that first tower quicker. In the bot lane, it's going to be stuff like Caitlyn, Jhin, Sivir. You have a mix of tower damage because you're pushing so hard, and you just have natural damage for fights early as well. For the AD carry and support, you have to think of it in 2 ways. So yes, we want to push and we want to get that tower, but we're also going to have a lot more attention bot lane, so you need to have some early damage. So those are going to be the kind of game changes, I guess. Now we're getting into more the champion changes for each lane and what new champions are going to pop up. These are really more to do with the nerfs or buffs coming to champions rather than just the game changing. So for the top lane, the Renekton buff is the only major change really. I guess you can kind of count Malzahar in here as well if you think of him as a top champion. So there are 2 changes. You get 20 Fury immediately immediately now, and you have more AoE damage rank 1 and 2, but it's going to be the same at rank 3. This actually could be really good combined with the better rewards for winning your lane. Like literally, he takes a gigantic crocodile turd on every meta top laner right now, I think, except maybe a few. You can snowball more with that lead you get, which is super important. Not exactly like a late game monster, I don't think, but you can do a lot with the lead and 1v2 pretty easily if you just keep pushing. This season has never really been about crushing your lane and pushing endlessly, becoming unstoppable like it was in previous seasons, but now I think actually we could get back to that. Imagine getting a kill on your opponent, you take his tower, you get a CS lead, that's probably like 1200 gold or more easily just from those things alone, that early into the game, and that will let you keep dicking on them. Apart from that, I actually don't think too much is going to change. Like we'll still see these carry laners over tanks for most of it, and Irelia will still be the most well-rounded. So one of the biggest changes this patch is to Malzahar, that reducing his time his passive is active after taking damage to 0.25 seconds from 1 second, and the cooldown is doubled late game. There's a couple of things though. So normally in team fights, like he could just ult with it on and it took a while to cancel. Now it's not going to as much. He's also much more vulnerable to getting screwed in lane, in ganks, in team fights. Like it's easier to set something up on him, but this patch is actually good for him though. Like pushing is his bread and butter. You can use your E on a minion, you voidling, and you just shove the enemy laner into his tower. It's actually really hard to deal with that. He's definitely kind of getting gutted with these nerfs, like it's a really big deal, but he's still going to be really strong for the other reasons if he gets that lead. But at the same time, like this is a really big slap right I've given him. He's not going to be as dead as like some people are saying or as we first thought, but he might still be ruined actually when it comes to playing him in the live server. There is another change though that doesn't look like a lot, but it might make a difference depending on how the game changes. So Kassadin is a beast late game right now, but he struggles to get there with the early game, meaning more this season. There are a few buffs though, so his Q damage is up a little bit early and a bit more rank 5, plus his E mana cost has been lowered rank 1 by 20, slowly getting back up to the normal 80 it is now by rank 5. The thing is, we max at E second, so it's good until like level 13 when it equals out, and it's just like the bigger thing is matchup. So Kassadin gets bummed by early picks in mid lane and in the general meta that can slow him down. These farm mages like Lux for example, if they do come back, then it's basically a free lane for Kassadin to farm up and reach late game where he is just going to one-shot people still. Tanks in the jungle as well just mean less ganks or less chance of dying to one anyway, and even though buffs are not massive, if the meta does shift a little bit to poke and like siege and stuff and a less aggressive mid lane, I think it'll be better overall. So speaking of the jungle, we've got like two big things this patch, so a Hecarim Nerf and a Nidalee buff and nerf, I guess. I think it's kind of just a nerf actually. The Hecarim Nerf will make Triforce a bit less useful as the Sheen applies with base AD, which is getting reduced, but it's not going to be massive. Like it kind of hits his farming again, but not massive, so I think it'll still be strong and I'd still ban him honestly in my games. The Nidalee one though is super strange because I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to do. Like, so as it stands right now, they haven't included the slow on her pounce, but they have included some other stuff. So your Q, min, and max damage is going to be up in both human and also in Cougar. Well, kind of like late game actually in Cougar it's a little bit down, but the Q AP ratio and damage versus hunter targets is up in Cougar to kind of make up for it. The biggest thing though is swapping between human and Cougar form does not reset your auto anymore. So for us plebs who rarely play Nidalee, that auto reset won't seem like much, but for an experienced Nidalee player, this is going to suck major balls. You're going to end up taking way more damage on your clear now, and it is going to be slower, especially early. But the kind of upside, I get, or if you kind of call it an upside, is in ganks and for us clearing with our abilities and not using our auto reset properly like we're supposed to, we'll be doing a little bit more early. It's really hard to judge it. It's like a little buff to inexperienced Nidalee players, but a nerf to the better ones. I personally think though she is going to be weaker overall though. Like in the grand scheme of the game, I don't see a reason to really play her anymore. Like when you can play other carry junglers, she's still going to be good, still do a lot of damage, but there are just other people who do more damage and aren't as risky. With Nidalee gone as well, there aren't really that many carry junglers left. Like Kindred got nerfed, like Riot have really targeted these carry junglers, so Kha'Zix is probably the best one apart from Hecarim, so that'll be the go-to damage options. I think this will open up stuff like Zac, Amumu, and Rammus though even more. I expect these to all be better in 6.15, and Rammus is already really good. There's going to be less pressure on them early when they're just farming. They'll be able to get to items quicker and be this massive front line. Also as well, like as a side note, with a bigger focus around towers and like sieging and stuff, Zac might actually just get better because he's so good at diving with his passive. He has that long range evade and disruption too, so I'd actually keep an eye on him. Most of the bot lane stuff we've actually already gone over. Like the biggest changes that are impacting the lane are the tower having no defensive buff now and being worth more. The Vayne is getting a few buffs, but sadly the extra range does not make it though. It's literally like the biggest cock tease by Riot ever. I was so looking forward to it and they removed it. Anyway, so we've got this new way her Q works, and it now does the bonus damage to a tower as well. It's sadly not as big as it seemed though, really. Like before, her Q had two parts, okay? So the auto plus the Q bonus damage. So the auto could crit, but the Q damage might not crit. Now if the auto crits, the Q is going to as well, but in theory, like that will average out to be about the same damage overall, so it's not really going to to change anything. The problem though, and this really sucks, is like Vayne is the worst champion ever to push a lane. Like she can't really do it. She's going to sit under a tower and a farm, which is basically giving the enemy AD even more gold than it was before. It's dumb, but even with the changes like these buffs, I actually think she might be worse than she is right now. I guess at least there is a tank meta right now, which Vayne is going to be better in, and she's very good versus Rammus, so maybe that will be enough, I guess, to see her some play. But I think like in general, if we're picking lane bullies and people that can push in the bot lane, she is not either of those. So that's going to wrap up this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of these picks and if I'm going to be right or wrong going into 615. But that's all for this video, so I'll leave you with the robots.